it lightly from round about midday, and the ground isn't exactly what we would call 100%, but the crowd nevertheless, despite the conditions, is very, very good indeed. Patrons have been filing in through the gates here from round about 6 o'clock tonight, and I'm sure they're going to be in store for what will be a great game. These two sides have met once before at a night grand final. That was in 1977 when Hawthorn was victorious, and in fact they won that match under very similar conditions to the conditions that we do in fact have here tonight. A number of changes have been made in the respective sides. We'll check on those shortly, but it should be mentioned that Hawthorn is going for a record third night premiership. Carlton, of course, did beat Richmond in a night grand final here a few years back now. As I said, the crowd is a very, very good one indeed. The pre-match entertainment, some of it anyway, has been, of course, provided by the Bluebirds. They look rather cool down there tonight. The ground, as I said, not in the best of conditions. The Super Sopper has been at work since the curtain raiser matches have been concluded. And the man out there on the tractor has indeed been a very busy one for the past few minutes or so. Let's go down to the boundary line now and check on the respective team changes. As we say, a very good evening, first of all, to Peter Donegan.
Thank you very much, Pete. Good evening to you and good evening, everyone. Well, it is just a little cool down here on the ground. It is raining at the moment, and the Hawks are making their entry onto the ground through the banner erected by the cheer squad. Both cheer squads have done a marvellous job. I can tell you that I have been out into the middle of the ground, and it's an absolute glue pot tonight. The players are going to find it very, very hard to keep their footing. The Blues are coming out onto the ground now as I speak. So let's talk about the Carlton lineup. They've left out quite a few experienced players such as Rodney Ashman, Jim Buckley, Peter Kenny, Warren McKenzie. They have only one really big man in the side, and that, of course, is Justin Madden. But because of the smaller lineup of Carlton, as they come onto the ground through the Bluebirds now, I think you'll find that probably they will be suited by the conditions. Well, I don't know whether he'll agree with me or not, but to talk about Hawthorn on the occasion of tonight's grand final, let's say a very good evening to Jack Edwards.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well, Hawthorn have picked a side that they think can take the game out. Judge McCarthy and Whitman will be on the bench for them. And I did say to Ronnie Cook, I said, well, what do you think of the chances tonight under these conditions? He said, well, luck will play a little bit of a part in tonight's game. The conditions are fairly slippery, not so much heavy, but slippery. And I think I agree with Ron Cook. Luck will play a little bit of a big part in this game because you can't really. It's the worst game, the worst night we've had for the year, weather-wise, isn't it, Peter? And it's a shame that we got on the grand final night. But it's a good crowd in attendance. It's going to be a great game of football, and all I can say, may the best side win.
In one word, who's your tip, quick?
Hawthorn.
OK, I'll go for Carlton. Let's go back now to Peter Lamb.
They'll remain impartial. They won't have a selection at this stage. The umpires, I can tell you, Ross Castle and John Russo. We'll take a break and we'll be back for the first quarter of the Foster's Cup Grand Final 86 after this.
Welcome back to VFL Park. The toss of the coin about to be effected in the centre. Respective captains Mark McClure and Michael Tuck with John Russo. Mark McClure calls tails, and tails it is. So Carlton will kick to the small scoreboard end in the first quarter of tonight's grand final of the Foster's Cup.
Right, Peter, and good evening to Bob Skilton. Good evening to Lou Richards.
Good evening, Pete. And I tell you, Pete and Bob, I'm rather surprised we've got such a big crowd here tonight because the conditions are not the best, as you mentioned, the opening of the show. I'd say it's pretty close to 20,000 people.
I think, if my memory serves me correctly, we had a grand final postponed a couple of years back because of bad weather. Should they have played it tonight or put it off until a couple of weeks back?
I think the rain was too late tonight.
Yeah.
You really didn't probably. The forecast wasn't for such consistent rain as we've had here. And Carlton are kicking to what in the schoolboys games was the scoring in. And,
you said games, Bob. Yes, you've had a busy day.
And we've had an excellent game. One of the best schoolboys games I've ever seen, to see Xavier College come from behind to beat Melbourne High School. And
well done, Xavier.
The
well done, lads.
Catholics won out again.
I think the big thing here tonight, both these sides should be congratulated because they've picked two tremendous teams. They're just about at full strength, and that's how serious they take it, and that's possibly why they're sitting on top of the list. So we should a top struggle here tonight, Pete, in this grand final for 1986 for the Foster's Football Cup.
Yes, Carlton's record against Hawthorn of late isn't that good. They haven't beaten them since 1983. But, of course, before that, the Blues strung together a number of wins against the Hawks. Probably, I think it was around about 7 or 8. So, conditions tonight could be a great leveller. Umpires preparing to get things underway. John Russo and Ross Castle, the men in white. They won't be white too long. Teams have taken up their positions. Carlton kicking to the right, Hawthorn the main scoreboard end. That seems to be the heavier end, if there is such a thing in football. Umpire Russ Castle comes in to bounce the ball. It's the Foster's Cup Grand Final to 1986 between the two powerhouses of the VFL in that year, Hawthorn and Carlton.